Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. One of his advocacy, teaching mindset, and creative strategy to go from a broke to financial freedom. No other than Mr. David Webb.
How you doing?
I'm fabulous, fabulous, Mr. David. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. I'm David Webb, the No Money Millionaire, and I just wrote a book about how I, even currently, still purchase millions of dollars in real estate without using a dime of my own money.
Mr. David Webb, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world and hoping for more and more empowering advocacy like this to come. And for sure, more empowering books like this to come. Many people assume you need a significant savings to start in a real estate. Yet you managed to build a portfolio without using your own money. What inspired you to pursue a no money down approach, and how did you first realize it was possible?
You know, it's interesting. I had done no money deals through a couple times throughout my life, and it still hadn't clicked. The first one I did was in 1997, and I didn't have a job. I didn't have any money, and my father told me that he was going to sell the house. And I was visiting him one day, and I came in the door, and he was like, "I'm going to sell the house." And I said, "Well, I want to buy it." And so he laughed at me. He said, "How are you going to buy the house?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to figure it out. I want to do it." And I was relentless, and I was talking to one lender after another, and they would ask me the same questions that I always thought I had to have. They're like, "How's your credit and your taxes? You have your down payment?" And my answer was no, and nobody wanted to talk to me. And but I did. I didn't stop. And I continued and continued, and I found one person that said, "Yeah, okay, let's work this out." And so they came up with a way where my father could gift equity to me as the down payment. And so it was a creative structure, but I was able to go into that deal without a dollar of my own money. And at closing, I walked out with $20,000 in my pocket. And so that was the first one, but it still didn't click in my head at that time yet. It still, I continued after that, and I wanted to get it. Well, I ended up selling that house, and I wanted to get another home, and I was back in the same mindset, the same. I have to get all of the pieces, even though I had just done one creatively. I completely was still stuck with the standard mindset that I had to have this and had to have that. And so another 10 years went by of me working and just trying to build up my savings and just renting homes during that time until the 2008 boom, or seven, somewhere in there. So it was like 10 years later, and somebody had came to me and said, you could buy a home right now because the way that the banks were lending and everything. And I just laughed it off. I thought, and I even said, no, I can't buy a house. And I was turning myself down before I even attempted it, just because of the standard mindset that I was so programmed with. But one day I was just browsing through Craigslist, and then I found seller finance, and I called the gentleman and negotiated it and came in with barely any money. I think maybe $1,000 out of pocket, but and no credit check. I didn't go through the whole producing multiple years of tax returns. It was just I gave the $1,000 and I got the home. And so you would think after doing two that I was then on the right track, but no, still wasn't. I ended up, fixing that house up, and I sold it, and I still was stuck in the same mindset. And it wasn't until that was 2007 It was about another 10 years or so. So like every decade, I got creative again, but this time it was serious. All the pieces that came together, it started clicking. I realized what I needed, and it really came out of necessity because I didn't have the standard. I didn't have the down payment. I'm sure my credit wasn't perfect at the time, and so it just came out of necessity. But after reading books, I really attribute a lot of it to reading books, and just learning and learning and learning from all the different people. I found what I needed, and I found how to do it, and from there, it's been nonstop. That's I haven't stopped since.
Experts note that no money down strategy can be rewarding but also carry increased risks and required careful due to well credited action. How do you assess and manage risk early on, and what due diligence steps were essential?
Well, I mean, I guess trying to do anything professionally, you really have to know what you're doing. I mean, there are, you can get involved in this and get over your head pretty easily. Fortunately for me, a lot of my working background had been in sales of construction. So I wasn't the actual handyman, but I sold a lot of it. So I was there pricing the renovations, pricing different aspects of remodeling homes. So I, I had that I was able to bring to the table because when I do my deals, and one of the reasons that I wrote the book is not only do I do no money deals, but the way that I structure my deals and the way I teach in the book, the deal from the day I'm closing it is actually paying me an income, not just from the rentals, but I get paid an income to actually do the renovations. So I go into a deal with no money, but from the day I close, now I'm going in, I'm doing the renovations, and I'm paying myself to do the renovations. So, I go in with no money, but yet creating my income as well. So really you really just have to, it's the due diligence aspect is huge. I bring in professionals to actually do my inspections, to look for anything, if anything's serious, if they want to come and tell me that there's foundation issues or something that's outside of my experience, then I just have to pass. But I do, do the due diligence, and it's important to make sure you're not biting off more than you can chew. And then also you have to be able to bid you have to be able to figure the renovations right as well, because when I purchase these properties, again, with no money out of my pocket, the budget is there to do the renovations as well. So there's the purchase price and the renovation budget. So all of that has to be calculated pretty on point, or else you can get yourself upside down.
Mr. David, seller financing allows buyers to buy sellers in installments instead of getting a traditional, well, system. Do you use seller financing in any of our deals? Or how did you structure those agreements to protect both parties?
Well, I have used seller finance. As I had said, one of my earlier stories, that was one of my earlier deals that I have done. And a gentleman that is out here working with me, I just helped him get his first property using my method. And he just did seller finance. And he did no money down, no credit check, no W-2s. And the day he just closed on August 1st on a triplex. And the day that he closed, people were paying him rent. So he had an income from day one. But seller finance is part of it. I don't use seller finance so much anymore, because there's so many different ways that you can do no money deals, that, I have so many under my belt, and I'm doing larger properties now, that I just structure mine differently. But from somebody just getting started, such as the gentleman I just helped, seller finance is a great place to look. And I think you asked, how do both parties protect themselves? Was that part of the
Yes,
question? Yeah.
yes.
So, you know, the paperwork is key. You purchase either land contract or some type of structure, and you just make sure that both parties are protected in that contract. And fortunately for today, a good place to begin, and this is how I advised him to do it. It's not the final, but it's a great starting point. You can run now a contract through AI, and just to get an opinion, you can just say, how does the buyer fare out of this agreement, and it'll give you a good idea. It'll really, it's a nice starting point. I don't think it's the final. I think you should always involve legal counsel for yourself, but AI is a great place for you to look at a contract and just to get an idea if you're fairly being represented in the deal or not.
Interesting indeed, Mr. David. And partnership or joint ventures can reduce the individual financial burden by pooling resources. How do you find and vet partners, and which types of partnership? Equity sharing, sweet equity, or limited partnership?
So that's what I work with now. I that's the level that I'm at. I work with partnerships or private money, however it wants to be, termed. But and you do got to vet them 100%. It's any partnership is kind of like a marriage. You're going to be together for a certain for. I mean, it could be the longevity of the property. The way I structure my deals, it's a short term. I structure an attractive return for a period of time, and then the property converts 100% to me after such a period of time. But you do have to vet them. You have to know their backgrounds. You have to know. I mean, all money isn't good money. Somebody could have liens or judgments or other things, and when you get involved with somebody, some of that can come onto you if you're not careful, and if it's large enough of a problem. So it is important to vet them, to go through and ask questions, find out about them. You can't ask too many questions when you're getting into a partnership. You want to make sure who you're working with is going to be just as solid as you. And then there's all different ways how you structure the partnership. It's endless amounts how you can structure it. I do a lot of sweat equity. Um, I'm handling all the renovations. I handle all the managing. I handle every other aspect. Anyone who works with me, they're just a private money investor only. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can find a good partner who has experience, and they have their role, and you can bring in what your experience or lack of experience and what your role is going to be as well. And again, that goes back to the contracts that we had just previously mentioned. Just make sure everything's laid out clearly. You can't have your contracts laid out clearly enough. That'll be specific what everybody's duties are.
Hard money loans provide quick access to capital but often have higher interest rates and shorter repayment. Did you leverage hard money lenders, and how did you ensure your projects could handle those costs?
I think hard money lenders are a good way to go, especially, I mean, with my book for no money investing. Hard money lenders is a big part of it, especially for somebody just beginning. If you Really depends on your role. I think everything has its purpose, and hard money lenders is a great asset or a great way to go for a certain way. I think fix and flips really do well with hard money lending. So, for somebody just starting out, you have to really know what your role is. Are you going to actually get into renovating properties? You want to get in fix and flips? Well, then, consider hard money or private money. Are you looking to try to just get something for yourself? You look for seller finance. So everything has its role, but I strongly believe in hard money loans. I'm actually working with a person right now. Their first deal, they're looking to do a fix and flip, and I was just today actually just telling them to look at hard money. And the short term really works well. Matter of fact, sometimes hard money is a little longer than you want. One of the people
Sure.
that I work with, they have a 9-month minimum. So even if you fix and flip it and you're done in 4 to 6 months, you still take on the whole 9-month, payment, the interest that you're going to get. So sometimes hard money loans are longer than you really want them to be. But you back what we explained before, the due diligence process. When you bring in hard money, you have to figure out what that payment's going to be, and that has to be covered. And so you calculate all that in your budgets, and you can't be strict enough, diligent enough when you're doing your budgets, because you can get over your head. But if you do give it the time and do give it the diligence that you need and the right inspectors, and find out what you're working with, I mean, it's a very lucrative place to be, and you can easily cover what the cost of the hard money loan is, and they'll give you the money to even do the renovations. So again, you can work with hard money lenders and come out of pocket $0.
Mr. David, tell us what is coming soon. I'm intrigued.
What I'm working with currently,
Yes.
I'm in the process. We just set a closing date for mid-October. I'm in the process of it's a package, but it's 9 homes here locally to me. It had to be purchased as a group, all 9. They wouldn't break them up, and I think in that particular area, there's a big demand for selling. They're all single family homes. Mostly, what I do is multifamily. I have large apartment buildings, and that's mostly what I do. And I hold everything. This will be the first one I'm actually going to break apart, separate them, do a little renovations to them, and do fix and flips with all 9 of the properties. So we hope as soon as we close, we'll be putting them right back on the market. But that's what I'm working on currently.
Well, good luck to that
Yeah, thank you.
project, Mr. David. And tell us, what are your short term and long term goals as an author and as well as entrepreneur?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? What was my goals?
Yes. What are
What?
your short term and long term goals as an
Okay.
entrepreneur, as an author?
Sure, sure. Well, the book came out. I come from the inner city of Detroit. I grew up in the inner city. I went to the inner city public school system, and a lot of people that I know are still back there, and they're still under the mindset that even though they know me, even though they see what I'm doing, and they know me personally, they're still stuck under the mindset that they have to have all the standard pieces that we all grown to believe. And so, I wrote the book because I wished I would have had this information 30, 20, 30 years ago. I would have had a lot better, a lot more fun time the last 20 years had I been doing this a little sooner. But it wasn't out there, and a lot of the stuff I was reading, it was kind of foreign to me. Because passive income, all of this type of information, that wasn't taught to us. I didn't know anybody that owned property or had, like I said, passive income coming in. Everybody I know, we were lucky to get a job in the factory and try to work 30, 40 years to retire, and after that be on a fixed income. So I wrote the book to share it with people like that. Just a younger version of me that wished it was out there, telling me you can do this right from where you're at right now. So the book came from that, and right now it just got released, and so I'm promoting that. That's my short term goal, is to get the book out there, such as being on a show such as yours, and thank you for that. And then also my properties. I'm looking to get into my largest property right now is a 20 unit, and I'm looking to get into larger ones that have a manager on site, because right now I manage and renovate all my own properties, and I'm looking to get into larger communities, 50 plus, 100 plus communities that have management on site, and I can just start working with the management team. So that's my long-term goal. The short-term goal is really just to get the word out there, and start helping people, like the person August 1st that closed on the triplex. and the person today that I'm helping with getting the hard money loan to do a fix and flip. So immediately I just want to start helping people and letting other people, change their situation and learn that they don't have to be stuck where they're at.
Good luck to your goals, Mr.
Thank you.
David, and looking forward for more success. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
One of the biggest books that influenced me, and it's an old book, you can find it out there. It was called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. And that really changed my mindset a lot. And it's not just about monetary riches, it's really about life enrichment and mindset. It helped me go from, it breaks it down into two different mindsets, a creative mindset and a competitive mindset. And when you become on the creative mindset, you're not worried about, oh, if this is going to be gone before I get there. You just start understanding that you're going to create what's up ahead of you. And so it was really big to me. And then I read a lot of books for real estate, and his big term is infinite returns. And his name's Ken McElroy, and he's got a few books out that I've read all of those. But yeah, those have been the biggest for me lately.
Well, thank you for that recommended book, Mr. David. And can you please give a piece of advice for those people want to be like you?
Sure, sure. Going back a track, I should have recommended my book as well. Just joking, but yeah. So, advice to someone like me: you don't have to wait to have everything in order. You don't. You can start owning real estate. You can start getting paid from real estate right from where you're at right now. Doesn't matter your taxes. Doesn't matter your credit. Doesn't matter your down payment. Stop holding yourself back. Like I had said previously, I turned myself down in my own mind before I even attempted. I was telling myself no before somebody else told me no. But just know that it's possible. I'm doing it. I come from lower income of the inner city of Detroit, and I buy millions of dollars in real estate without a single dollar of my own money. And, I'm not doing anything different than anybody else can do. So just know that you can do it, and stop waiting for the right time. Right now is the right time. You can do it right from where you're at right now.
Definitely. And thank you for that piece of advice, Mr. David. And self financing allows buyers to pay sellers in installments instead of getting a traditional, well, payout. Did you use seller financing in any of your deals? And how did you structure those agreements to protect both parties?
Yeah, I spoke on seller financing earlier about, that it was my second property. And my contract that we laid out specifically stated what my role was, what I was going to do, all what the down payment. I mean, it was a small down payment, I think $1,500 or $1,000, but what the down payment was going to be, what the payments continuing to be, the term, everything gets laid out in complete detail. But I think seller financing, it plays a big role in what I'm talking about with no money deals. Yeah, it depends on what role you want in this, but seller finance is a huge part of it, and it's out there. I just helped someone get one, August 1st, and it's a triplex, and it was producing cash from the day he closed. So he was renting. He had four dogs.
Hmm.
He would not have been approved to rent somewhere else. So he was stuck. He had to move. He didn't have a down payment. His credit's not good. And his taxes weren't all, in order the way they needed to be. He wouldn't have been able to rent somewhere, not easily, not with four dogs and the situation he had, but he was still able to buy a home, a triplex, a cash producing property that now he's the landlord collecting rent. He was able to move in one of the units. The other two are paying all this payments, and he was able to do that all with no money, no credit, seller finance.
Seller finance indeed. And Mr. David, what were some of the biggest challenges or mistakes you encountered while you using other people's money, and what lesson did you learn?
Thankfully for me, I learned my lessons with my own money, and so I this had been a long road for me. I'd said in '97 I bought my first one, and then 2007 another one, and so I continued wanted to be involved with real estate, but didn't know what I was doing. I did the two no money deals and still wasn't convinced about doing no money deals, and I'd already done two, but I still had that same mindset. And so I purchased property. I didn't know what I was doing. There was one that I guess it'll always pain me when I think about it, but it was an amazing deal. It was a great location. I got it early. I had a excellent um, uh, room to grow on this property, just to renovate it and do it. And man, I could have made a tremendous amount of money, but I was a novice, and the banks wouldn't work with me. I didn't know I didn't know what I know now. And so that great opportunity, if I had that today, oh, what I could do with it, and how much it would profit, and room it had to grow. But I didn't know what I know now, and I ended up losing it, and I lost money on it. And so, I my tuition came at a cost, but luckily for me, it was my own money, and I didn't have any problems with partners. Because once you do a deal and you bring on partners, you have to protect their money above and beyond your own. You don't want that ever to go bad. And so thankfully for me, all my mistakes came early on before then, and I paid those costs.
Yes, interesting, Mr. David. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love letters in each fourth season, as well as my movie 101 review and music 101 and science 101 and sex 101 in each first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. David, finally, for aspiring investors who want to build wealth in real estate without using their own money, what first steps would you recommend they take, and what mindset should they adopt?
Oh, the mindset that you can do it, because a lot of people are their biggest obstacle. A lot of people don't think that they can do what I'm teaching in my book, but it is doable. And so the first step comes with just knowing that you can, and then the steps to take. You really have to really have to know going in, what is it that you're trying to do. Are you just trying to find yourself a home for yourself? Well, then look for seller finance, because that's not going to work for partners. It's not going to work for hard money, and that's not going to work for any of those. But there are seller finance deals out there for sure. So if you're just looking to try to get yourself a home, or something like that, then I would recommend seller finance. Look for those deals. But if you're uh, want to build yourself an income, such as I do, and you want to do renovations yourself, you're handy like that, well, then definitely you can look into private money or hard money. Hard money works well for it. They'll give you the money to do the renovations, and all of that. So you just really have to first know that you can do this, and then second, really be honest with yourself, and deciding which it is that you're going to do. Are you really looking to start getting and try to renovate properties? You can even do it, hiring other people as well, but it just takes a lot of due diligence, and you got to get the right deal. And really, one thing, if I could give anybody some advice, and these words were told to me by the realtor that was selling my property, and I understood clearly what he was telling me when he said it. But he said, Dave, he said, you make money on the properties when you buy them. And he was my realtor selling the property, and I knew what he was telling me. I didn't buy it right. I was in it too high, and I ended up taking a loss selling it. So you know you can't um, it can't be told enough to you. You have to buy right. So go in these properties, and don't be afraid to offer less. You never know what how motivated the seller is. You never know, but yeah, always try to get the best deal you can when you're buying properties.
Yes, honesty is the best policy, people. Be honest, be honest. And Mr. David Webb, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Thank you very much. Um, and so I'm sorry, Daniel, I didn't catch what you'd said, but the book is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and it'll be available on my website as a free download. My website's coming soon, but in the next week or so it should be up, and it'll be a free download available on there.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. David Webb, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books to come, more and more empowering entrepreneur will arise. So, Mr. David, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.